morning and welcome to Concrete and Coffee presented by Glue Down. Today I have with me Len Overbeek with Tiltwall Ontario, Canada. He's a co-owner of the company with his wonderful brother, and I'm excited to have him on the show today. So Len, welcome to Concrete and Coffee.
Good morning, Chad. Looking forward to this. Got my coffee, a good old Tim Hortons coffee. Now, I'm sure you're not familiar with Timmy's down there, but it's the way to every Canadian's heart. You buy the double and guaranteed you're in. So thank you for the coffee and thank you for the mug.
There's just so many things I just learned right there. First of all, Timmy's. I don't even know what's going on with this. I haven't been to Canada since I think I was in high school. So I don't know if they shunned me or what's going on there.
Well, Timmy's is a short form for our Tim Hortons. So that's our brand of coffee. So you guys drink your Starbucks. We have Starbucks as well, but Tim Hortons is really our coffee brand up here. That's our Canadian coffee brand. So that's short form for that is Timmy. And I know a double-double for you guys is a basketball score. For us, a double-double is 2 sugar, 2 cream, and a wonderful Tim Hortons coffee. So
it sounds fantastic to me. That's great. Was there any confusion when Toronto won the NBA championship a few years back? I'm probably dating myself. It's probably been 10 years since that happened. I don't even know how long that's been, but no confusion with double-doubles and coffees at that point, right?
Absolutely not. The only confusion we get when we order a double-double or a triple-triple is when I'm across the border in New York. New York has a lot of Tim Hortons too, and they always look at me like I have 2 heads when I order a double-double. So. But.
All right. Well, we're gonna come back to some Canadian lingo later on, I think, in this. To get us started, and for those that don't know you, you have a Tiltwall construction company out in the Ontario area, and so I want to talk a little bit about you founding this company. You're almost 10 years old now, right?
We're 20.
I'm sorry, I meant to say 20. Sorry, I got stuck on the other thing. Yeah, exactly. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So you and your brother, and I see in your background there, not that you're probably trying to brag at all, but you've won maybe 1 or 2 TCA awards. We have 0. That's fine. One of these days I'm going to pay Mitch to get one. But so tell me about the journey of you and your brother deciding that you wanted to start a company together and that your focus was going to be in the tilt space.
So really what happened is back in 2001, we were having an issue up here in Ontario with concrete guys, getting proper guys that can do proper concrete walls, concrete finishes. And I had a salesman that worked with us, and he mentioned to me about tilt-up construction. Told me what you do. You pour concrete flat on the ground, you tilt it up, and I laughed at him. I said, you can't do that. Tilt-up in Ontario back then was pretty much unheard of, other than Site Cast up in Ottawa, a great competitor of mine. But other than that, it was unheard of. And I remember going to my concrete guy, my concrete salesman, and talking to him about tilt-up, and he also laughed. And I said, I knew it wouldn't work. He's like, no. He goes, you're the first guy in 25 years that's asked me about tilt-up construction. And really, that's how our journey began. He took me down to the States to actually see a project go up. A great company out of Michigan, LD Clark. I believe they just lost their founder here not too long ago, but a great, great company. They were very helpful, very knowledgeable, gave me, a tour. And we came back and we started Tilt-Up. And I always tell my kids, I started Tilt-Up when Google was a baby. So we didn't have YouTube and we didn't have all these other things that you have today to figure it out. We figured it out the hard way. A lot of sweat, a lot of tears. And from there, we've just evolved into the company that we are today.
And obviously very impressive. So what was it about your brother and deciding to join forces with him? Were you working together prior, or was this sort of a, hey, I think this is a good opportunity, let's join together and put our minds, to work on this? Where did that begin?
So my brother Dave was actually not a partner in the business when we started. He bought the other partners out a couple years later, and if I remember correctly, he was a young kid of probably 17 then when he bought into the company.
Wow.
So,
okay.
Yeah, I always like to tell people that Dave's older than I am. He looks more stressed than I do, but the reality is he's 7 years younger. So he's the one that carries me a lot of times. That's why I love to bug him about the stress that shows on his face. But he joined the company, like I said, in 2004. He bought into the company, and he's been a great partner ever since. Having a brother as a partner is just absolutely amazing. I don't know how any company survives without at least two partners. There's a lot of sole proprietors out there, and I take my hat off to them because they have a challenging year one. I take my hat off to you because when you stumble, there's nobody there to pick you up. And I've stumbled many times in my career, sometimes through injuries, sometimes through personal trials or losses. And my brother's always been there to pick me up. And, it's always with a smile. He's not picking me up and grumping at me. He's picking me up and he keeps on going. So I don't know how people do it without, a solid partner behind them. I definitely, Tiltwall wouldn't be what we are today if we weren't a partnership.
Yeah, well, I mean, you two are always two of the most jovial, fun, interactive people every year at the TCA events. Unfortunately, we're not going to get to see you guys face to face this year, but you're always a fun group to be around. Your brother and I have had a few nights of probably too much celebration. So one of these days we can get maybe the two of you together. We'll do another one of these or get him on board. So I'd love to chat with him as well. And I'll touch on, interesting, my brother, we're a family business. My parents started it, and my brother was a co-owner of the company just by default. When we were younger, we were given some stocks in the company, but later in life, he chose his own path, did his own thing. And honestly, I think my brother and I, we don't have the loving relationship that maybe you and your brother do. We were definitely a sibling rivalry growing up. So he's very successful doing his thing, but I'm going to leave the brother relationship work together to you two. That's not for me at all. But I have my dad. I do call my dad. If there's challenges or something comes up, I do still keep him involved in the business. Well, great. I want to kind of shift to a little bit here is because the experience you have, and you talked a little bit about this being in Canada and doing tilt wall, because typically in northern states, you see a lot more precast type work. And I'm curious when, whether in Canada specifically or just day to day, what are some of the challenges you're facing in construction that's going on at the moment?
Well, it's interesting. You bring up Canada and this is why we're always so jovial when we show up at the Tilt Up Concrete Association meetings. We have 11 months of winter a year. So that it's typically at TCA somewhere sunny and bright. So we're always in a good mood. No, that's a myth. And really a lot of the northern states actually get more of a winter than we do. So the fact that you see a lot of precast in the northern states, you also see a lot of precast in Ontario. But we've figured out ways to work successfully through the winter. It still is a challenge. It'll always be a challenge. Sometimes I wish global warming would just hurry up a little bit more so that I wouldn't have to deal with snow. But, I always say the guys down in the States that have to pour, down in the southern states that have to pour in the hot weather, they have more of a challenge than we do in the cold weather. It's pretty easy to keep concrete warm. I think it's a lot harder to keep concrete cold. So for us, the weather, is it a challenge? Yes, it's a challenge, but it's not as big of a challenge as most people seem to think it is. The one good thing for us up here is the precasters are very busy. Their backlog is incredible right now. Some of them are booking into 2021, which is a challenge that our market is facing. We have a lot of warehouses out there that are looking to be built over the next, probably a year, especially with the switch to online shopping. So there's a lot of warehouses, and the precasters aren't able to fulfill that need, which is a good problem for us to capitalize on right now. The other big challenge that we face up here in Ontario is workers shortage. There's not a lot of skilled trades available. Tilt Up eliminates a lot of this skilled trades that we need. The guys that we have are super guys. They're very, but there is a lot less of the skilled trades, and there's a lot less hours that we require to give you the same square footage of project, right? So those are some of the challenges that we face up here.
Okay. So it's interesting. You're talking a little bit about the precasters being backlogged in the warehousing, or just in their catalog that they have. One thing that's always impressed me about your company, and again, you've got your beautiful display behind you, is you're not known for that. your company is known for making architectural, beautiful buildings. And they are more along the lines of what I see. I mean, if anybody watching this, if you want to see some amazing work, go on the LinkedIn page for Tiltwall Ontario, Tiltwall on Canada. Go there, go see their work. It is off the charts amazing. Lot of really intricate designs. And so you do apartment complexes, you do housing, you do schools, you do a lot of different things. So many Tiltwall people in the industry focus on warehouses. They've got 2 reveal lines, and then they've got, a 30-foot panel, and then they just, replicate. You don't do that. So what is it about the reasoning kind of not going that route and not doing the cookie cutter and trying to do things unique, which I'm sure is more challenging? What's the driving force behind that?
There's 2 driving forces. The one is just industry, and because tilt-up is not very popular in Ontario, and we're changing that. We're really trying to change that, Chad, and I really appreciate all the nice things you just said about us. We try our best every single day, but because the industry is not very familiar with tilt-up, we know we have to diversify to stay busy. So we're always diversifying, always trying to do something different, always trying to, have a building to do in tilt-up. And it's not always a warehouse. Would I love to do warehouses? Yes, I'd love to do warehouses. They're great projects as well. So I don't belittle any of the guys that specialize in warehouse, tilt-up. We just simply have had to do something, to keep ourselves full, and that's finding these other projects that we can turn into tilt-up. And we've turned many projects that were not designed as tilt into very successful tilt-up projects. The second reason that we diversify is I get bored very quick. If I had to do the same thing every day, I would get bored. So for me, it's always a challenge to find, how far can I push the limits of tilt? What can I do next? What are some other amazing things that you can do with tilt? And I look at tilt as my palette. You can create so many beautiful things with concrete. So many people think concrete is gray, cold, ugly. That's not true. Concrete is absolutely beautiful and amazing product to work with. So that's really what drives us to the diversity that we do with our buildings.
Yeah, and I mean it shows for sure. And I know you've been able to speak, and as being part of the TCA, you sort of spread that word definitely to other people in the industry across the United States and Canada. How receptive do you think contractors are to looking at tilt from your lens versus maybe that just whatever's, hey, we only do warehouses, we're not really looking out? Do you get resistance from talking to people in the market, or are they open to what you're doing?
I think the market is open to it. You have to remember the Tilted Concrete Association is an amazing association. There's a lot of members there that are top-notch contractors throughout the world. We go down there every year, right? It's just an amazing group of guys. I don't think you can get together with a better group of guys. And I always tell people, if you're in Tiltup and you don't belong to the Tiltup Concrete Association, you're missing out on the best part of Tiltup, right? But so the guys that go there are very receptive to what we do. I think the only pushback we get from them is on the single residential dwellings. The residential market is a different bag than your commercial, than your industrial, than your institutional. You're dealing with a homeowner when you're framing a house out of wood, and the house is nicely built, and somebody walks in and says, "Hey, I don't like where my kitchen window is. I want to move my kitchen window." It's very easy to move a kitchen window. In a frame building, in a tilt, it's a little different story, right? So there's a lot of pushback when it comes to residential. It's not a market that we know will grow, exponentially here in Ontario, but we do believe every year we'll have a couple of those projects where somebody wants to be in a quality home. I always tell people we're in one of the richest parts of the world, and we build our homes with using the cheapest material out there, right? So I know my children in my home, in my concrete home, are safe every night. Could something happen? Yes, there could, but it would be quite a lot before something would happen in there.
Absolutely. And so that great segue into something that I know you've gained a significant amount of interest in the industry. And again, if you're watching this, you don't know Len and his company's work, you've got to check out his house. And one of the things we want to do as part of this video is we're going to post some of the layouts we have published out there of this home and the way the panels were laid out and just what went into building this. But if you don't know, Len actually did a tilt-up home, and that is his personal house, and he's won an award for it. So talk me through this. I mean, how did you think to yourself, like, oh man, you just kind of touched on this window's got to stay here, and so how much with the wife and negotiating? I mean, was there stress involved with, if we don't get this right, we're stuck with it, and then you're a couple of years into living there now. What is your feedback? Do you think it's been a good experience for you?
So if I start from the beginning with my tilt-up home, I think probably 2 years into my tilt-up construction career, I looked at and I said, you know what, this is how I'm going to build a home someday. I'm going to live in one of these buildings. And amazingly enough, one of the first engineers we worked with in the agricultural, because we started in the agricultural industry, he didn't move with us when we went commercial. And when I built my house, he reached out to me and he said, Len, I knew you'd someday build a tilt-up home, right? So how did it start? It started with just my passion for tilt, my passion for concrete. When I brought it up to my wife, she basically said, you build me a concrete home, I'm not living in there. So, and I hope she's not watching this. Anyway, so what happened is I said, okay, I'm thinking to myself, you know what, I can sell. My wife is probably going to be the toughest client I'll ever have, but I'll sell her on a concrete home. So we started designing the home, and I never spoke anymore to her about tilt-up construction. We designed the home. She wanted a traditional looking home. She didn't want anything funky. So it just had to be a traditional home. We started designing it. We had it all designed, walked through the model. She was happy with it. I said, if I make it look like this out of tilt, are you going to live in there? She's like, if you make it look like this, I'll live in there, but away if it looks like concrete. So that's really how the process started. And I don't believe I let her down. I think she's very, very happy with the home. Designing it was fun. Laying out the panels was fun. I actually ended up building the majority of the home on the weekends, Fridays and Saturdays. We lived on the property. I bought a property with a house that I knew I could tear down and not feel guilty about tearing it down. One of the things with concrete is I try not to be wasteful. Concrete is a building material that's going to last forever. And because I also look at it from a standpoint of, hey, we can't waste natural resources. So I didn't want to tear down a home that was only 20 years old to build a tilt-up home. So we lived on the property, and I would build the panels. And my two little boys at the time were 4 and 6. They actually helped me lay the thin brick, and I show people pictures of that sometimes. They're like, how hard is it to lay the brick? And I'm like, well, you know what, if a 4 and a 6-year-old could figure it out, I think most people could figure it out. So we built the home. A lot of my neighbors wondered what was going on for the month and a half while I was building the panels. There was a hole there. There was a foundation there. Concrete trucks kept coming and nothing was happening. And we actually erected the panels during 2 foggy days with the crane pulled in the one morning. By the time he was set up, it was about 10 o'clock and the fog rolled in. So the majority of my neighbors never even seen the house going up. 2 days later, when the crane pulled out, the fog cleared and there was literally a home standing there. And that was probably, the speed of it was really amazed most of the people. Living in there now, it'll be 3 years actually coming up real shortly here that we've lived in the home. We love it. It is amazingly quiet. We don't have hot spots and cold spots in the home. From an architectural standpoint, it looks beautiful inside. Most people that come don't have a clue it's a concrete home. They look at the walls and they think they're drywall. The only disadvantage is I have a bunch of boys, and my wife always told me if one of them smacks their head open on this concrete, you're taking them to the hospital. I'm not going to explain it. So, no, we really love it, and I don't think I'd build it a different way again if I had to rebuild it. I think I'd build it that way any day.
I assume you were able to do insulated panels as part of this.
100%, and it's very, very energy efficient that way. When we built the home or when we were designing the home, the mechanical engineer told me I'd need a 3-ton air conditioner in my house. We put a 1-ton in, and my 1-ton air conditioner keeps up no problem. So it's very energy efficient.
Yeah, I mean, this would be a fun segment in of itself, doing some energy efficient building. We always, being in Texas, what's always killed me is for us, the solution we have, because we have hot summers, is put more AC on it. The idea of insulating better or using better materials, like, no, let's not do that. We've got cheap we have cheap labor, we've got cheap materials, let's just do it that way. And I think to myself, man, what a waste. More AC is not necessarily the solution. And I mean, it's surprising to me that you haven't had more contractors embrace something like not saying it has to be tilt wall, but maybe concrete based solutions for building homes, because we can make things more energy efficient. So I'm hoping you can drive some of that technology down to us. Dana, my fiance, actually mentioned when I was talking to her about interviewing you, and I don't know if you remember meeting her, but you actually met her at the TCA event in Dallas a few years back. And she said, well, hey, if he's got a tilt-up home, we're talking about remodeling our house or possibly doing something else. And she's like, well, can we build a tilt-up house? Like, I guess, but I'm not a tilt-up contractor. I don't get the free labor. I don't get less expensive labor or. Did you lose me for a second?
I did, Chad. You're back.
Okay. All right. Cool. So anyhow, so I may have to borrow some of your guys or something. Come down to Texas and help teach us how to make a build to air our house. So may call you in a year or so on that one.
No, it's interesting. Most of the guys I talk to from the industry would love to be in a tilt-up home themselves, right? We build quality, long-lasting buildings for our clients every day. I mean, every tilt-up contractor does that, right? We're building the best possible building we could be building for anybody, so why wouldn't we put our own family in something that is so energy efficient, so secure, right? So it's, you know what, guys from the industry embrace it. From outside of the industry, the problem with building a concrete tilt-up home is you're looking at about a 20% additional cost on the home. So that is something that does scare a lot of people off. They're like going, is it worth the 20%? And, nobody squabbled when they started putting $200 seatbelts in cars or $1,500, airbags to keep their children safe. So why would you squabble about spending an extra 10, 15, 20%, on your home where, you're most vulnerable? Most of the time that you're in your home, or a big part of it, you're sleeping, right? You're at a very vulnerable stage. I'll just give you a little anecdote. My kids downstairs in the basement, there was a black spot on the wall, and I cornered them about that. The two little guys decided they wanted to build a fire in my basement up against a concrete wall. So there's a burn stain on there. You can just imagine what would have happened if it wasn't concrete, right? So you try not to think of those things, but they are realities out there, right? So I don't know why more people wouldn't build with concrete, and even insulated concrete forms. It doesn't necessarily have to be a tilt-up home, but the ICF, poured-in-place concrete. I mean, every time a hurricane blows through the southern states, you always see a house somewhere that survives, and the reason it survived is it was built out of concrete, right? And the majority of people just be like, oh, you know what? My last house was out of wood, and it lasted 80 years before a storm finally blew through. I'll build this one out of wood as well, right? So build sustainable, and concrete does that for us, right? So
definitely. Well, and we just had a tornado that unfortunately came through, a bit of a tragedy here in the Dallas area, and it did a tremendous amount of devastation. And so we're in Tornado Alley, and that is definitely a concern for us. Well, we'll jump on that topic in the future, because that is, I think, something that is a change that could be positive for us in the industry. So I wanted to kind of, I know your house is probably one of your favorite things you've done, but is there any other projects that you've worked on through your years at your company, wherever, that maybe you're really proud of that you want to spotlight today?
My favorite project is always my next project. I'll be honest with you, Chad. Like, I always look forward to the next one, right? Where else can I push the boundaries? To look back, I would have to say Muskoka Bay. It's a project we completed about a year ago now. It was a 6-story condo building on a golf course in the middle of the Canadian Shield. A great project. Project that was designed as poured in place. Trades were amazingly tough to get up there, so somebody reached out to us and said, hey, can you do this out of tilt? And we looked at it and said, yes, we can do that out of tilt, and we put a proposal together. Our proposal ended up being more economical than the poured in place solution, and ultimately much quicker. So it was one of those amazing projects that we built. Started in the winter months. We built all the panels for this project in a 10-week period, basically during the same time they were doing the foundation and the slab work and the underground slab work. They finished pouring the floor, and a week later we started erecting this building, and 6 weeks later we topped it off. So we basically did a floor per week. It's not your traditional tilt. What we did on this one is we poured one floor at a time, or I shouldn't say we poured a floor at a time. We erected a floor at a time. So instead of full height panels, our panels were about 15 to 16 feet tall. Still had some fairly significant panels in there. Some were as wide as 60 feet wide. And we'd erect the walls, and then we set the precast floors that we built also on site. We would set them on top of the walls, and then we'd erect the next set of walls, and then the next set of floors, and the next set of walls, and the next set of floors. So went together like Lego. Actually went off pretty much without a hitch as well. So that's probably one that I'm really proud of that we've, done over the last number of times, right? So.
Yeah, that's really. I haven't seen a project like that before, so that's a really cool. I didn't even know. Honestly, that wasn't on my radar that you guys did that. So that's fantastic. That's really cool to hear. So I wanted to kind of wrap up a little bit of today's conversation, and I really appreciate you having on. And so I'm going to do something a little bit different today. And you kind of started. You almost segued for me today, but I was preparing for our discussion. And I was thinking to myself, well, for the Americans, that I want to make sure that I understand some Canadian, since you guys speak a little bit differently than us. And so I found some words that I'd like to run by you because I am curious what these things are. And so if you wouldn't mind, there's a word queue. What is a queue?
If you're waiting in line?
Yeah, I wanted you to say waiting in line.
No, you're queued up. What is it? I don't have a clue. It's just a word we use.
Okay, all right. I'm trying to understand so that when I come up to visit you guys, I've got some lingo down here. I downloaded like an entire page of the things that came up. So I won't hit you with all of them, but there was some that jumped out to me that I was like, I don't even, and you did, it is funny, it's on here, literally, for those at home, it says double double, and you actually mentioned that. I was like, did he know I was going to do this? So here's another one. What is a 2-4?
A 2-4? That's how we get our beers. 20 a case of 24. It's our beer. So this week we actually have a weekend named after it. Our May 2-4 weekend. So it was traditionally Queen Victoria's birthday. We've just changed it into the May 2-4 weekend. So.
Okay, I want to invite for that. That's the weekend that I'm up there. I'll bring some beer from Dallas. There's another one, a toque.
Oh, a toque? That's what we keep our heads warm with in the wintertime.
I mean, so explain to the audience what that is.
It's just probably what you call a cotton hat, or I'm not sure what you put on top of your head when it gets cold, but we call that a toque. We throw a toque on our head. So.
Well, a cold day for us is probably about 50 degrees Fahrenheit. I mean, what centigrade? That's probably like 20, 25 for you. So we don't have a lot of cold days in Dallas. That's why I live here.
A cold day for us is when the whiskey freezes in the bottle.
That is a cold day, for sure. All right, so I have one more because this one definitely was way off the radar. Whale's tail.
Oh, that one I don't know. So you have to remember, Canada's a broad country. I know we have about a tenth of your population, but we're bigger than you are. I would imagine that's something that comes from the East Coast. So.
Sure, and I read. I was like, "What?" It's actually it's a I guess a dessert. It's more like an eclair or something like that. And I had a picture of it on the website. It looked delicious, and so I was like, "Yeah, I want that. I want to get me a double double." I'm going to be really fat when I leave Canada. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you. I feel a little bit better. And when I'll get a refresher course when I come see you guys. So thank you for that. Well, I really appreciate your time today. I know you're getting ready. We're filming this right before they have a holiday. And so this is getting ready to be a 3-day weekend for Len. So I appreciate his time and really enjoyed talking to you. I was really love meeting with you and your brother Dave at the TCA. And hopefully next year we can get a face-to-face again there. Otherwise, I'd love to come see you guys. Not in the wintertime. I don't do winter. Summer's great. Not a winter guy at all. So I appreciate your time, sir. Thank you very much. And hopefully we get to chat with you soon.
Perfect. I appreciate it, Chad. It was a great time.
Thanks.